Okay guys, today I'm going to show you how to make a corset top with fabric and ribbon. And let me get my fabric out and plug in my iron. Okay, I hope you can see. I don't have a camera with a flippy screen to see what you're seeing, so I just kind of have to aim it and hope you can see. Okay, what you're going to need is 2 pieces of fabric. You're going to need at least a half a yard of fabric, but you're just going to use 1/4 of it, if that makes any sense at all. Like there would be 2 sides to this fabric in your half yard. Well, you need to cut that in half. At least a half a yard of fabric, and you're going to cut that fabric in half. And I've got Curious George here because this is what I have to do for an order. And you're going to need another half if you want to use plain fabric, because that's what I always use. You can match colors if you want. This is just going to be for the back of it. It's not really going to show, so if you wanted to use white, you can use white or whatever color you want. I usually use colors that kind of go with it, so that way if the other side is seen, you know, it just kind of matches. So I've got my yellow plain fabric, and then I got my Curious George. And I put them together with the folded sides together. I just kind of even them up to where they are about even. Then I go ahead and I iron it. Now if there is some kind of print on it and you want something centered, like I think I want the Curious George. So once you figure out what you want in the center of your top. Now I'm going to show you how to do this without actually using a pattern, or let's see. Okay, you can practice on a piece of paper and cut it. That's if you want to, you don't have to. Or you can just go ahead and use your fabric and measure. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try to make this around the center of the top. So what I'm going to first, I'm going to cut straight across here. And if you have a ruler or something you want to use to make it straight, you can. I pretty much don't ever use a ruler. I just cut. So that is going to be where the top is. And I'm going to measure 4 inches in. So right about there. I'm going to cut my swoop. Okay, now this is going to be the neck. These are where the loops would be. Now I need to measure. Since I'm making a 3T, it's going to be, I'm going to need at least 9 inches, but I'm going to cut like 10 because I might shave a little off. So this will be about 10 inches here. Go ahead and cut that. If you need to use a ruler or a straight edge or whatever to cut it, go ahead. But I'm showing you how to do this all freehand. I don't know if you can see everything. Let me move this up. Oh, this thing won't want to move, is it? Alright. Okay, so I went ahead and cut that. Now, you're going to want to know how big the child's chest is. Usually for let me look at my cheat sheet here. 3T is usually around 20 and a half to 21 inches. So I want this top to go kind of around, but I want there to be a little gap because there's going to be, it's going to lace. So I'm going to measure in, and I got to leave room for my seams. So if I go 9 inches, that'll be 18, and then I add 2 inches for my loops, so that would be about 20. And if the child's chest is 20.5 inches, that'll leave a 1/2 inch gap. So I'm going to go ahead and give me another 1/4 for my seams. So I'm going to cut this, and if you want, you can go ahead and make your marks. I don't know if I have a pencil. Here's a pen. If you want, you can go ahead up here and make your mark at 20.25, or excuse me, at 9.25. This pen don't work either. Here's a pencil. How about that? Okay, here we're gonna mark 9.25, and in the middle here, I'm gonna mark 9.25, right about his eyeball, and down here 9.25. Right about there. That way I know it'll be somewhat straight and even. Okay. Yeah. Now, what you're going to want to do is measure. This is a little bit over 4, so I want it right at 4 because I want it. Okay. About 3.5 is what I want the final measurement to be. That way it's 7 across. And here I want this to be 9 inches. So that is right about 9 inches. So this will be how big I need my corset top to be. I will leave all the measurements down below for the sizes, as far as the width, what you want across here, the length, what you want across here, and this, how big across you want your neck. Okay, now what you're going to want to do, you'll have your both pieces. You'll have this piece and this piece. And what you're going to do is you're going to want to mark. You want to make sure that this side is inside, is wrong side up. And you're going to mark, you're going to measure. Now this should be 9 inches. Okay. And you're going to measure right in the middle, which would be 4.5. You're going to make a mark. And you're going to go 1.5 inches down, and you're going to make a mark, and 1.5 inches up and make a mark. So there will be 3 marks there, and you do that on the other side as well. So 4.5, 1.5, and 1.5. Okay, now that you got your little marks on here, you need to cut your ribbon to whatever color ribbon. Whatever color ribbon you want for your loops, you can go ahead and cut that. I'm using brown for the loops for the back of this one. And I usually cut them about, I would say, right about 4 inches. I never measure when I cut these little loops. I just cut them. I would need 6 of them. It's hard to explain this stuff when you're actually doing it. I don't know how to explain it. I just do it. So after you cut 6 of your loops, go ahead and like make sure they're even. I usually cut them, trim them together on both sides. So they're about that long, which I probably cut, what, 1/2 inch off? Yeah, so they're a a little over 3.5 inches. It doesn't have to be perfect. And these are what you're going to sew through here. You're going to need some other ribbon that you're going to use for your straps. And I usually use, it's about 1 yard for each strap. So I'd say at least 1 yard and 8 inches, or 2 yards and 8 inches for your straps. So go ahead and do that. And then you can cut them in half. So then you have 2, and that's going to be your straps. Now you're going to have a sewing machine to sew. Okay, you're going to want to use, if you are going to be adding lace to the bottom of your corset top in the top, pick your lace, and I usually use the same color thread as the lace I'm going to use. Go ahead and thread your machine. Now it doesn't matter if what color your bobbin is. I always use white bobbins because it's going to be on the reverse side of the corset top. Get your fabric and your straps, your brown straps, or whatever color straps, loops you're going to use. And you're going to start at the top. You want to make sure that both the pattern side is on the inside because you're going to be turning it inside out when it's done. So you go ahead and you start. Make sure your two sides are all evened up. And if you wanted to go ahead and pin this, you can pin it. I don't pin mine anymore. It's just more time for me, and I've been making them so long that it's pretty much useless for me to pin it nowadays. So you go ahead and start. You can back stitch. Okay, you're going to stop maybe about 1/4 inch from the edge. And this is where you're going to start to sew down this way, and you're going to need your loops that you cut. You just fold them in half and make sure they're evened up and not all crooked. You don't want it to be sewn all crooked in there. Like I said, it'd probably take practice for you to do this a few times for you to get it right. So you make sure that your loop is even, and you're going to put it with the ugly side out and the folded side in. And you're going to see where you made the first mark. You're going to kind of center it up the best you can, and you're going to have a little bit hanging out because you don't want this loop to get sewn in there and it come undone. So you're going to at least hang at least maybe 1/4 to 1/2 inch out of your thing. You pull this back down, so it's going to sandwich in between there. Make sure it's even. You can kind of even it up with the fabric so it looks straight. And then go ahead and sew across it. Okay, and you can grab your next loop and do the same with that. Fold it in half. Make sure it is even. I tell you, this is much easier when you don't have to explain it and you can just shoop. Okay, and you're going to find your next mark and you're going to make sure it is centered again, and you're going to hang at least, I usually try to make them look at least kind of even, so that way I know they're even on the other side, since they were all the same size. Maybe just a little bit less. Okay, and go ahead and sew down across that one, and go ahead with your next one. Again, leaving at least 1/4 inch. You're going to turn it, and you're going to go straight across. Stomp just about a quarter of an inch. Okay, and get your other one. I hope you guys can see. You're gonna get this one. Make sure it's evened up. Make sure the folded side is in. And push it out just a quarter of an inch past the fabric so it's hanging out. Make sure your sides are even and sew across it. Okay, you're going to go up to the corner, leaving about a quarter of an inch. You're going to turn it. You're going to sew around here. Okay, now once you get there, you turn it around and you want to make sure that all your fabric is attached to the other piece of fabric. Okay? And you want to make sure all your little things are even. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and turn it inside out. Go ahead and make sure it's all pushed out. Make sure you get your fingers in the corners so it's all pushed out. And usually this is where I go ahead and I iron this, which I'm going to do real quick. I'm going to go ahead and iron this. Okay, so I went ahead and I ironed this all flat. And then I took my top and I went ahead and folded it down about an inch, maybe a little more than an inch. So I folded it in and it looks like that. Now what you're going to do is get your lace, if you are using lace, and go ahead and measure, because you're going to want it to go across your top. So go ahead and measure and cut where you need to cut. And go ahead and do that for the bottom as well. Right there. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and... I like mine to be cut on an angle. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this angle so it'll look better. Okay, once you got your lace all cut, you're going to sew your straps onto the top. Go ahead and get one of your straps. Okay, so go ahead and take your strap. You don't have to heat seal it. If you want to heat seal it, you can. Go ahead and stick it in there. Make sure you got enough in there. Make sure you have at least an inch or more in there, because you don't want it like just catching the edge and then coming out. So make sure you got at least an inch or more in there. Get your lace and put it on top, and you're going to go ahead and sew it. So right there, I'm going to sew my lace on there. Sometimes it might take a little bit to get started. Okay, I'm going to back stitch just to make sure it's on there. you want to make sure you stop before you get to that edge so you can add your other strap. Here it is. I'm going to go ahead and add my other strap. Again, make sure you get enough of it in there, at least an inch or so. If you can kind of feel or kind of see where the other one is and kind of make them even. That way you know you have the same amount of straps left. But you can always cut it and trim it so that they're even. Go ahead and sew it across. Okay, so my card was full, so it stopped, and I don't really know where it stopped, but I'm hoping I can put this together. Where did I do the lace? Okay. Okay, so my card was full, so it stopped, so I hope that you got the last part in there. You're going to stop sewing at this edge at least a half an inch so you can get your lace ready, and you can go ahead and stick it up underneath there. And I usually put this lace right along the edge, and I try to get pretty close to the edge as possible so it's kind of like hanging over. So go ahead and get your lace put on there and sew down to the lace. Once you get there, you can go ahead and switch your stitch to a straight stitch and get your lace, and I usually make sure it's on there. You may want to back stitch maybe once to make sure the lace ain't gonna come off. Go ahead and sew this on. Go ahead and sew it and then back stitch. Okay, and then stop. You're going to want to stop at least a quarter so you can finish going around this, and go ahead and switch your stitches back to the zigzag, and then the same size as you had it before. So you stop at a quarter of an inch from the edge because you're going to continue to go around. Okay, let's stop at when you get to the end, cut your threads, and you should be done with your top. And this is what it will look like when it is done. Now I got my little Curious George in the middle. And what I usually do is I will go ahead and make sure it is even. I will fold it in half and make sure your everything lines up. I will go ahead and fold this in half. Actually, I do it like this, and up. And I will make sure these are even. I'll go ahead and fold it around and around, and as you can see they are not even. I'll go ahead and cut those on an angle, and you're going to want to heat seal them once I find out what I did with my lighter. And you go ahead and heat seal your edges, and your corset top is done.